All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the January 25th. No, not ready? All right, let's try that again. Good morning, everybody. This is Dave Vellante. Welcome to the January 25th Wikibon Peer Incite Research Meeting, where peers discuss challenging problems in the enterprise. And today's discussion is around the virtual desktop. And we've got a great panel here today. On the call are several guests. Glenda Canfield, who is calling in from lovely Texas. Glenda's desktop specialist with VMware. Welcome, Glenda.
Thank you.
And Michael Keene is on, who's a technology strategist at Lakeside Software. I should mention Michael is at Michael_Keene, and Glenda is at Glenda Canfield. So welcome, Michael.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And we also have Jason Langone at Langone J, who's the Director of Virtualization Cloud and Storage at Microtech. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you, sir.
And we've got a couple of Skype connections, right? I'm here with Stu Miniman,
Yep.
who's running the Skype connections.
Thanks, Dave. So in addition to doing the live TV on Justin TV, we're adding in Skype connection. So we've got Jason and Mike doing the Skype Beta 5, which allows some group calling through the TriCaster.
Another first through the
Yeah.
TriCaster first. And we're here also with good friend John MacArthur. Thanks for coming in today,
Thanks,
John. Good to see everybody. Okay, so as I say, we're here at the Wikibon headquarters. We're broadcasting live on justin.tv/Wikibon, and we want to really understand the state of VDI solutions. When we were prepping for this, the panel had kind of an aversion to the term VDI, so we'll talk about that a little bit. We want to talk about the implications there for end users, and just some quick housekeeping if you're not one of the main speakers. Oh, I should also mention we have a good friend Rob Pegler on as well. Rob, you there?
I am, Dave. Thanks.
And Rob's going to, as always, bring in a good storage perspective. So if you're not speaking or planning to speak, please *6 to mute your phone, or just use your mute button. But if you don't have one, *6 will do it. And then you can *6 to unmute if you want to participate, which of course everybody is welcome to do. Let me set up the call. So the premise here is the idea embodied in virtual desktop infrastructure, what's commonly known as VDI, really needs to evolve to be more widely adopted within organizations. Specifically, value from virtual client infrastructure has to move beyond this tie to any specific physical device, for instance, a desktop or a laptop or a notebook, more toward providing secure platform agnostic access to any device, any data, any application from any location at any time. So the focal point of VDI is really moving from the PC device to the end user and the applications and data that those end users wish to access. So that's the premise for the call. And we'll talk about that in some depth, but I'd like to start with the panel. Maybe we could start with Glenda. And can you talk a little bit about where you see VDI or the virtual desktop today? What kind of penetration are you seeing, and what kind of use cases are there?
Well, I mean, there's some, very specific use cases right now around VDI. A lot of it is in education, as far as like training and enabling, students to be educated using computers so that, they grow up and understand how those things work natively. We're seeing it a lot in the medical field with the Follow Me desktop, where nurses and doctors are, there's a big proliferation of tablet devices in the medical field, and you're also looking at the fact that they want the Follow Me desktop, and they want to have a card that they can just scan and then, type in a name really quickly on a kiosk mode, device, and move from patient to patient and have that information move with them. And those are two really big verticals for, virtual desktops. And that's where we're seeing the most penetration as far as education and hospitals and, clinics, those types of things. Those are really, the major, verticals that are taking up most of my personal time.
Okay. Now, Jason, I'm interested, your title is you've got virtualization, cloud, and storage in your title. What are the things related to those areas that users need to think about in terms of virtual desktop deployments?
Sure. So, to clarify here, and I completely agree with Glenda on some of the vertical-based adoption and healthcare, and my primary vertical, which is U.S. federal.
Right, yeah. Let me just qualify real quick. I'm sorry. I don't deal with the with the government market at all. That's that's out of my circle of influence or anything. But yeah, the government is a major vertical as well, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm kind of marginalizing that because it's huge.
No, we're on the same page. To kind of go back to the question, right now, most of the accounts I'm talking to and a lot of the projects I'm kicking off, I'm flying out to Kansas City tomorrow to kick one off, are VDI related. There's been a lot of interest over the last couple years. A lot of people kicking the tire on 20-seat deployments. Last year, people were kicking the tire on 200-seat deployments and 500-seat deployments, and now we've actually got some people implementing 1, 2, maybe even 5,000. I was in Kuwait last quarter doing a 15,000-seat deployment, education in that scenario. But a lot of the stuff is tied together. Virtualization obviously is what this stuff is running on. Storage is probably the greatest drag next to services when it comes to doing VDI projects. And then cloud, there's a lot of talk about how do we automate some of this, how do we do desktop as a service, which, to be honest, doesn't have a huge play in my primary vertical, but I imagine it does in ed.
So, Michael, in your role as technology strategist, what does it take to deploy desktop virtualization in what you're seeing with clients? Where do they start?
You couldn't have teed that up even any better, Dave, so thank you.
You're welcome.
The message that I'm delivering here from Lakeside is it's all about the data. So without the proper data about the environment, about the end user, about the apps, performance and things like that, VDI, as I like, as everybody likes to use the term, isn't possible. You've got to have the right intelligence in which to make those decisions and provide what I like to call decision acuity, giving you the ability to take the data that's available and make it actionable and create it and put it together and have a plan, and then be able to make business-based decisions off of that data. So that's really what we're seeing. The vertical, yeah, I mean, I cross all verticals. I cross ed, I cross financial services, the federal space where Jason plays. The vertical doesn't matter. It's all about the customer data. It's all about, again, what it comes down to is the end user experience. My question out of...
I got to agree with you. Michael, I agree with you on the end user experience being what's really, the thing that either makes it work or make it not work. But decision acuity, oh my God, I'm going to have to remember that and leverage that in the future. See, I used that with leverage. Anyway, basically, what I tell customers all the time is look, you need to categorize your users. What do your users need to get their job done? What is it, what can you provide to them that's going to make them the most productive? And then you've got to categorize it and figure out, how you can deliver what each of your individual groups of users actually need. And that's when, you really learn how to, or you really figure out who you need to provide an actual, virtual operating system to versus just, providing them with applications. Because I think that nobody, go ahead.
No, I mean, and you make a great point. And user categorization and what I call user tiering is critical. You've got to understand that. But what I like to find, what I've seen in engagements has been, customers being able to go, yeah, here's what I think, but they don't know. There's no concrete data. It's what I call, so I mean, you like decision acuity. We'll try this one on for size. The problem today between the VDI vision that everybody has within organizations and VDI reality, the gap between the two is what I call the dragon gap. And the dragon gap, if you look at an ancient map of the cartographers, they had serpents and dragons in the unexplored areas of the ocean. That's IT, that's the VDI space today. In order for you to bridge the gap and get rid of the serpents and the dragons is to have the data. User tier it, but back it up with solid data about your environment, about your apps, about the OS, and about the users, and this goes a lot smoother.
So this is John. I got a couple of questions for you because I want to try to help keep it practical for some of the people on the phone. what are some of the dimensions of the tiering? Because I don't think you're just talking about a unidimensional performance or something like that. So what are some of the dimensions of the tiering, number one? And number two, what are the collection methods for the data that you think needs to drive this model? What tools do you use for collecting data?
What? Go ahead, Glenda. What?
I said that's a great one for you, Michael. I was kind of letting you lead with that.
Yeah, so I mean the collection method, right? So there's tools out there, but it's you know how granular you need to get with that data, right? So I mean everybody talks about agentless collection methods and agent-based collection methods, but using a tool like Lakeside, Systrack, like Liquidware, whatever's out there, it's the data, right? As long as you're collecting the data that's specific about the environment, about the end user, that's the collection method. You start doing it by human way, by sitting down and asking the questions, well, you're introducing human error. You need to automate that, and you need to have the granularity of the data. So it's a tool. From the user tiering perspective, you know, it's based on job category. You know, are you a knowledge worker? Are you a task-based worker? And then taking that and then mapping the solution into those tiers. So,
just out of curiosity, what are you two, both Michael and Glenda, doing for net new construction, right? So I'm at a customer, they're looking to build out a new hospital or a new training facility or, you know, something new. You're obviously not actually going to collect data. It's a new user group or a new user class. How are you guys pulling numbers and manipulating numbers there?
I mean, Jason, to be honest with you, for net new, it's a lot of what historical findings, right? So, I mean, is this a healthcare vertical? Is it financial services? Where is it? We can, you know, the amount of historical data that we've gathered, we're able to make really educated decisions about, yeah, based upon what we've seen in the past, this is what we can at least expect until we stand it up and start benchmarking in a new environment. So that's how we approach it.
Michael, is there a pool of information that the industry is using? Is it something that your company has, you know, specific guidelines that they're using, or, you know, how are we maturing the model as an industry?
Yeah, I guess, you know, the biggest point is the end user experience. You know, how can you quantify and make it actionable to the end user experience? What's important to the end user? I asked that question on Twitter this morning, and Tom Howard replied, and he said, it's usability and speed, but it's all perception, right? So based upon usability, what's usability? Well, it's application launch time, it's login time, it's boot time. It's, you know, then you get back to the speed. And the usability is my application available now? Can I get to it